What's up, everybody? We are back. John Delarose here. Delarose.com. That's DELARROZ.com. I am a #1 best-selling author and comic creator, and I am doing these videos to, of course, bring attention to the books and all that. So if you like what I'm doing here, please check out my links in the description below. You can get all my books on Amazon and other sites too. So thank you, everybody who supports the channel. I appreciate you guys. All right, we've been doing a big, long list of Daredevil, and this is Daredevil by Charles Soule, and it's got Ron Garney for the most part on art. It is a really thick book. This is one of the longer runs of Daredevil out there. The books prior to this with Bendis and Brubaker and Wade, they actually split them into 2 volumes, so this would have been two smaller omnibuses if it were under their style of omnis, but Marvel's moving towards these bigger books for the most part. It's got a really beautiful piece of art on the inside without the dust jacket, and this is it. This catches us up. So if you wanted to start with Daredevil Volume 2 after they kind of canceled the first one, you start with the Marvel Knights by Joe Quesada, and then you go through the 3 runs that I mentioned, get to Charles Soule, and that brings us up to present where it's Chip Zdarsky's run. Now, this had a 1 through 22, it looks like. Is that where it stopped? I'm sorry, 1 through 28, and then they renumbered everything because, of course, they hit their 600th issue. So that goes from 598 to 612. And then there's also a Daredevil Punisher miniseries in here, and an all-new Point 1, because they did that. Now, the Point 1 starts off with this Asian group, and he's kind of like working with Daredevil. He's called Blind Spot, and he can disappear. So cool stuff. But so you're like, huh, what's this is going on here? Very interesting art style. You see that especially the colors are really out there for this like red and black. Everything's red, black, and white. It kind of symbolizes some of the blindness that you get here. And Murdoch's back in New York City. They completely don't talk about it for a bit, and it takes a sec before you find out how he actually got back there from Mark Waid's run where he was out in San Francisco. But here it is. I absolutely love this art. I wasn't sure I was going to like it at first because, like I said, it's really dark. The colors are very odd. But actually, it really grew on me. It felt really great for Daredevil. And Daredevil's training with this guy, and there's this, like, cult leader showing up in Chinatown who's tied in. This guy's Blind Spot's mom's tied up in it. And Daredevil kind of finds out that there's this, like, artist who's, like, going around killing people and murdering people, too. So a lot of stuff gets set up and through this. Gosh, man, the art makes me very happy. If anything, it was great. What's awesome, too, is Charles Soule's writing is so fast-paced. You can just pour through this really fast. And that's exactly what I did. So I just kept going through this. You learn about those characters. You really get attached to Blind Spot. I wasn't sure I was going to like it very much because they started going into that, like, I'm an illegal immigrant. And I was like, oh, no, this is going to get political. But he didn't really get too political with it, thank God. So it, you cared about the character. He was a real character. And you learn how he develops here. Really weird stuff with these, like, hands. This demon has, like, 20 fingers. And over the course of it, there's some good Matt Murdock law drama, because I guess at some point, I guess Charles Soule has a legal background, so he liked to get into that also. But Elektra shows up. Of course, you have to have that at some point. And he goes to I think it's Madripoor to go on this quest here to, like, find answers of what's going on with this, like, demon background thing. And he eventually finds it. And Spider-Man shows up there too. Obligatory Spider-Man crossover. And they fight the bad guys together. So that's fun. And I believe this is Superior Spider-Man he's fighting with. Maybe it's not. I don't remember. Get a beautiful annual issue. Everything just looks good. The art just like is really flows together over the course of this, even though there's a different artist. But it still feels right. you get a breakdown where this is Punisher and Daredevil, and it's a miniseries. And I thought, okay, this is kind of weird to get this like in the middle of here. But Matt Murdock is chasing after a convicted killer, and Punisher's also chasing after him. And Punisher's ready to just kill him, but Matt Murdock's like gonna protect him. But it turns out there's more than meets the eye here, and they end up having to, of course, fight bad guys together as an escape's plotted. And it highlights the differences between the Punisher's style of like, I'm just going to off these people, and Daredevil's style of like, no, let's let justice actually prevail. And as you see, he gets into this like titanium man suit, and then they have to kind of fight it. And Punisher kind of just like goes, I told you we should have just killed him. And you see awesome action with this bazooka shot. It's different art in here too, but again, it kind of like the colors are all really on the dark side, which, kind of bothersome a little bit because like I want to see things lighten up. It's a lot for an omnibus, and it really doesn't lighten up. But yeah, this is the one where there's like this weird artist guy who's like a killer, and he actually puts death into the art, and it's all made of blood. And he's chasing after Blind Spot here also. Gets pretty neat. There's such a cool villain, and a cool villain design too. I really like the look of him. He's really creepy, and I really enjoyed that. So it's a really long omnibus, as I said. We get a little break. We do get a little break in the middle of the action, and it goes back and finally talks about what happened. And here's a preacher that Matt Murdock meets and like kind of confides in with his what happened and all that, and nobody knows who he is, but he confides in the preacher, or in the priest rather. Good Catholic. I appreciate that. And then you learn that like there were these Purple Man kids like going around, and they helped Matt Murdock like erase everything by making everybody forget he was Matt Murdock, and it's kind of wonky. And it just kind of like it's definitely like a hard reset. I hated this part of it because I thought it kind of makes no sense. It feels a lot like One More Day, where it's like, Mephisto, I'm just going to erase the marriage. I mean, it's explained, and there's a whole 6-issue deal explaining it, but I really didn't like it. But that's okay. Not everything can be a hit, and I get they had to kind of reset things. Maybe they didn't. I don't know. But I don't know. I'm sick of retcons in general. It's very hard for me to get on board with a retcon in Marvel Comics at this juncture. But eventually, like, Matt Murdock goes to the Supreme Court. This is a really cool court drama one. And even though it's highly talky, and as you can see, the art's changed quite a bit through. There's like almost a filler deal. He ends up going against the Kingpin, and what happens is Matt Murdock argues that like superheroes should be able to testify in court, and he ends up winning that in the Supreme Court after losing it in appeals courts. So and through this, of course, people try to assassinate and kill him. So fun stuff. I don't like the art as much in this, but it didn't matter so much because this is mostly talking back and forth as Matt Murdock more than actually doing Daredevil stuff. And then it gets crazy. This is where it really blows up. And he goes and like Blind Spot like lost his sight, and so he goes to this like Asian temple somewhere where there's these demons and stuff like that, and Matt Murdock and Daredevil show up. This is a cool storyline, and he tries to rescue the guy, and he ends up rescuing Blind Spot, of course. But beautiful, cool storyline. Now I get really annoyed when I've read too much Daredevil now, and it's like I don't need another Kingpin storyline, and this is a Kingpin storyline, I gotta say. But it was okay. So this is a really cool twist. Kingpin becomes mayor of New York, and he actually makes Matt Murdock his like deputy mayor, and Kingpin starts making New York kind of crazy, of course. And so Murdock kind of has to deal with that. There comes a point where Kingpin actually becomes incapacitated, so Matt Murdock takes over as mayor and starts to undo things. And then, of course, there's a fight between the two on that level while Matt Murdock's trying to like undo everything that's going down, because he declares superheroes illegal, vigilantes, and the cops are going after him. Daredevil now too is really really neat stuff. Now, as much as I said I didn't want another Kingpin story, I thought this was done really well, and I was very happy to have this. And so now I just don't want another Kingpin story again. Like, please, whoever writes Daredevil, don't do any more Kingpin stories. It's been done to death. But through the course of this, Kingpin almost dies. Matt Murdock as Daredevil almost dies. And it looks like he saved the day at one point, and then it turns out he failed in that. And there's this whole like background thing. There's a clone of Mike Murdock who's made over the course of this, who he has to kind of fight. It's very, very bizarre ending. But it worked. And the colors do tend to lighten up over the course of this part here. And there's a final arc in here by Charles Soule where it looks like Daredevil, it's called The Death of Daredevil. It looks like he finally solves everything. And then it turns out he was just like not actually solving everything. And he was in a coma the whole time, and it was just like a dream. This pissed me off. I hate this sort of thing. Please don't do the dream arc thing. It was really a sad way to end this. And like, it's like, oh, I guess he didn't actually fix things. That sucks. And I don't know. I really hated the ending because of that. So that last arc, The Death of Daredevil, was crappy. But the rest of this omnibus was so good for the most part that it was really enjoyable. I didn't like the retcon, but I did like all the art for the most part. I liked the art direction. A really good omnibus overall. 8.5. I'd rank this probably, I don't know. I'm going to make a Daredevil ranking video of runs, and I'll have to think about it. But I really enjoyed it. Worth the read. I would read all those Daredevils all the way through if I were you. Really good stuff if you like Daredevil. All right, hit that like and subscribe button. We'll be back soon.